sweetest talk entertainment. Share and subscribe.
Hey guys, welcome to Entertainment Talk Nation. I'm your host Rob. There was an article posted on the Nation Facebook page talking about, and the article is from a website called Latin Post. So I will put that link in the description. And they don't really announce anything in particular. And I know that this is titled the Godzilla video, and I just want to let you guys know we're going to get into that in a minute. But I wanted to start with Pacific Rim because that's going to lead me into what I'm going to talk about regarding Godzilla. So they basically wrote a small article about a sequel and how Guillermo del Toro and some of his other co-workers or colleagues have been greenlight to write a sequel. Part of it, or most of it, was already written just after Pacific Rim was out and released. Now, the thing of it is that, I guess it all depends on the budget now. What he's saying in the article, and you'll see when you check it out yourself, Guillermo del Toro is saying that they need to come up with a budget that obviously Legendary can agree with. One of the higher-ups at Legendary is open to the idea of a sequel, so it looks like they want to do it. Money obviously is a concern. It did $400 million, which is not horrible, but most of that money was made overseas, only a little over $100 million here in the States, I believe. But here is where I get to the Godzilla thing. I think Godzilla 2014 will be the movie that will determine the future of kaiju genre. I really do. Because let's face it, he's the number one kaiju in the world. He's the most recognizable, let's put it that way. The most recognizable kaiju in the world that even people who are not fans of him know the name. They've known the name. They've seen Godzilla. One way or another, they know who he is. So I think Legendary is willing to greenlight Pacific Rim based on the success of Godzilla. And obviously, based on the success of Godzilla, will determine whether or not we ever see another Godzilla movie again. Whether it's by Gareth Edwards or not remains to be seen. But I can tell you right now, obviously, Gareth is very, very determined to just focus on one movie at a time. He's very open to a sequel, obviously, in his interviews. But he doesn't want to be thinking about sequel right now, which is the right thing to do. He's not dumb. He knows fans are already thinking sequel. He knows fans are excited. But he also knows that fans can quickly turn on you the minute you make any kind of mistake with a movie. So I think he's being very careful with what he's doing now. I'm almost certain that the studio probably already asked him about one. And I'm sure he's willing to do it. But everything is based on the success of Godzilla. And that's a lot of pressure on a young director who's just getting into the big time. A lot of pressure on, the movie itself, because it does have an uphill battle. Let's be honest here. It does have an uphill battle. Number one, it's got to contend with the flop in 98. Number two, those who remember Godzilla, even if they didn't see the 98 movie, remember a lot of the movies were cheesy. Let's be honest. They were cheesy. As diehard fans, we love them because we grew up on it. We take them for what they are. We don't take them too seriously. And we're open fans. We'll criticize it when we criticize it. We're not going to sit here and say every movie out of Japan was great. No, most of them were pretty bad. But we enjoy them for different reasons, whether it's the fights, whether it is the cheesy goodness, which is the line I like to use for all the movies. So for those of you who are big Pacific Rim fans, and I did enjoy Pacific Rim, I did criticize it pretty hard in my review, but that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. I thought it was an enjoyable movie. I think it has potential. But if they're going to greenlight a sequel for this, I think it's going to be after Godzilla's run. Because another thing they mentioned in the article is why it hasn't been greenlit yet. And when I saw that, I'm like, well, I think I know why. And I'm like, oh, you know what? Let me see what other people think. I'm going to share this. I think you'll get a Pacific Rim confirmed sequel depending on the success of Godzilla. That's my opinion. That's how I feel. And from a business standpoint, it makes sense. It really does. Why would you greenlight a genre that you did recently? It was fairly successful. Maybe not as successful as you wanted it to be, but it was fairly successful, and you want to see if you can build on that. What better way to see where Godzilla goes? Now, for some of you other kaiju fans and I've had a lot of people ask me this question. I addressed this a long time ago, but that was like when I had 700-800 subscribers. Right now the nation is growing, and we're closing in at 4,000. So I think to address it again, these are my thoughts on the crossover. You have two very different tone movies. As much as I would like to see it just for the sake of big monster mashing, from a business standpoint And when you look at the tones of both movies, Pacific Rim was more like the older kaiju films. It was rock'em sock'em monsters and robots. The plot was simplistic at best, and some of the characters were very campy and cheesy. That's fine. Us as hardcore kaiju fans like that. That doesn't mean that the general consensus does. Where now Godzilla looks like it's something that's going to appeal to the masses. And if Godzilla is successful, then what do you do? If you want to do a crossover, what do you do? Do you scale down Godzilla to the campiness of Pacific Rim? No, because then you ruin a potential franchise there that can go pretty far on its own steam with the name, with the success of the prior movie, if it's successful. Or do you scale Pacific Rim up? Well, the problem there is that how can you expect anyone to take it seriously after the prior movie? Is it possible to do these things? Of course it is. All it takes is great writing, a great story, and putting it all on screen. But even with that, you still have what people remember. So, in terms of the other movie. So, I don't want to say we'll never see one. I don't ever like to say ever. I mean, people were crying for Freddy versus Jason for years. Nobody ever thought it would happen, and it turned out to happen. So, I wouldn't necessarily just say, oh, that'll never happen. Because some people do say that. And I never understand why people say, oh, that'll never happen, when you just really don't know. You know what I mean? Because I remember tons of people said that when I was growing up for Jason versus Freddy, or Freddy versus Jason, however way you want to put it. And these were friends of mine who I knew for years and years and years who kept saying that. And sure enough, it came out. Same thing with Alien vs. Predator. I was a big advocate for Alien vs. Predator back in the day before, and my same friends or same people, nah, it'll never happen. It'll never. These things can happen, and if anything, when you look at those prior movies, obviously Alien vs. Predator was more likely because they had a comic at the time. Nobody thought the whole Freddy Jason thing would ever happen, but it did. So I wouldn't necessarily throw out the window that you might see a crossover between the two movies, especially considering both movies are under Legendary. We know that Legendary and Warner Brothers have their thing, but I think that for the most part has been resolved, and I think Universal now is going to support Legendary and whatever movies Legendary produces. So if there is ever a sequel, it'll be under the Universal tag. So, interesting stuff. I mean, I don't mind the Pacific Rim sequel. I'd like to see them improve upon some things from the first one. Like, obviously, a lot of the night fights, the fights at night and the fights in the rain. But don't rule out a crossover. I'm not saying it'll work. I'm not saying it'll be great. I'm not saying I'm all for it, but I'm not necessarily against it. I mean, if you want the kaiju genre to succeed going forward, you kind of have to consider merging these two movies together at some point if the genre gets a resurgence of popularity after the Godzilla movie. So a lot of the future of kaiju rides on Godzilla's shoulders right now, so we can only hope that all our expectations are met, but we need to keep our expectations realistic, because sometimes when you think so highly of a movie and you go in and it doesn't turn out to what you expected, you end up knocking a movie that at the end of the day might very well be a very good movie. This is Rob signing off for ETN, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Take it easy.
Thank you for watching ETN. Don't forget to subscribe and join the Nation Facebook page. You're watching ETN, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Share and subscribe.
Hey guys, welcome to Entertainment Talk Nation. I'm your host Rob. There was an article posted on the Nation Facebook page talking about, and the article is from a website called Latin Post. So I will put that link in the description. And they don't really announce anything in particular. And I know that this is titled a Godzilla video, and I just want to let you guys know we're going to get into that in a minute. But I wanted to start with Pacific Rim, because that's going to lead me into what I'm going to talk about regarding Godzilla. So they basically wrote a small article about a sequel and how Guillermo del Toro and some of his other co-workers or colleagues have been greenlight to write a sequel. Part of it, or most of it, was already written just after Pacific Rim was out and released. Now, the thing of it is that I guess it all depends